The year is 1958. The place, a top-secret conference room, deep within the labyrinthine corridors of the United States Air Force. The air is thick with cigarette smoke and the scent of cold ambition. On one wall, a large blackboard is covered in frantic, chalk-scrawled equations. On another, a simple, stark photograph hangs. The moon, not as a celestial wonder, but as a target. And in this room, a group of America's brightest minds, astronomers, physicists, military strategists, are seriously debating one of the most audacious propositions in human history. Their mission, should they choose to accept it, to detonate a nuclear weapon on the surface of the moon. This was not the plot of a science fiction novel. This was Project A119. A real, funded, and terrifyingly plausible study titled A Study of Lunar Research Flights. Its goal was singular and shocking: to create a flash of light and a mushroom cloud so large, so visible from Earth, that it would serve as an undeniable show of force. A cosmic statement written in fire for the entire world and one rival superpower in particular to see. Imagine the pressure of that moment. The Cold War was a glacier of fear, slowly grinding over the world. The Soviet Union had just launched Sputnik, that relentless, beeping pearl in the night sky, a technological humiliation that echoed across America. The space race was not yet about exploration. It was a battlefield for ideologies, a high-stakes game of psychological warfare. And in the shadows, men like a young Carl Sagan, tasked with calculating the behavior of a nuclear fireball in the vacuum of space, were asked to turn humanity's oldest companion into a billboard for annihilation. There is a profound and chilling silence that surrounds this chapter of history. It is the silence of a plan that never screamed but only whispered in classified documents. It is the silence of the moon itself, oblivious to the danger it was in. We look up at that familiar, cratered face, a constant through all of human love and war, and we see a symbol of romance, of mystery. But for a brief, dark moment in the mid-20th century, a handful of men saw only a blank slate, a canvas waiting for the most violent brushstroke imaginable. This is the story of how we almost crossed a line that would have forever scarred our sky and our soul. It begins not with a bang, but with the quiet, methodical click of a slide rule in a room where the unthinkable was transformed into a proposal. The equations were solved, the trajectories plotted, the psychological reports filed. The plan was technically sound, a feat of terrifyingly brilliant engineering. A missile would streak silently through the void, a star made by man, carrying a payload of pure sun fire. Its target, the Terminator line, the eternal twilight between the moon's day and night. The precise point where the resulting cataclysm would be most visible from Earth. The flash would have been silent, a light without sound, a violence without echo. But on Earth, the spectacle would have been deafening. Imagine stepping outside on a clear night, looking up at the familiar man in the moon, and witnessing a new, temporary star bloom in a searing, expanding corona of light. A silent, atomic flower blossoming in the lunar dust. It was designed to be a moment of awe, but its roots were planted in the deepest soil of fear. This was not science. This was a performance. A piece of theater staged on the grandest possible proscenium, with all of humanity as its audience. Yet, beneath the cold calculus of deterrence, whispers of doubt began to surface. What would we truly be destroying? The moon is not a dead rock. It is a keeper of time, a governor of tides, a mirror reflecting the sun's gentle light into our darkest nights. It is etched with 4.5 billion years of history, a pristine record of our solar system's violent birth. To violate that ancient silence with a nuclear fireball would be an act of profound desecration, a vandalism on a cosmic scale. And then the most practical of horrors emerged. What if we missed? The rocket, failing at launch, could rain its nuclear horror back upon American soil or an ally's territory. The political fallout would be an extinction-level event for the United States' global standing. Or worse, what if the Soviets perceived the incoming missile not as a symbolic gesture, but as a first strike? A single misinterpretation could have ended the world in a rain of fire, all for a flash of light on the moon. The weight of these realizations began to pull the project back to Earth, back to the realm of conscience. The military's relentless drive began to be countered by the quiet, persistent voice of reason. The very scientists who proved it could be done started to question if it should be done. The line between demonstrating power and revealing a profound moral poverty had become dangerously thin. The project was not stopped by a single decree, but by a slow, dawning understanding of its sheer existential recklessness. It faded away, not with a grand cancellation, but with the quiet shuffling of papers into classified archives. The target diagrams were filed away, the calculations were forgotten. The world never knew how close it came to seeing a permanent scar on the face of the night. But the questions it raised did not vanish. They simply retreated into the shadows, waiting. And so the flash never came. The silent, celestial fireworks show was cancelled. Project A119 was shelved, its files buried in the cold, gray vaults of top-secret classification, where they would gather dust for decades. The moon remained untouched, its ancient, cratered face spared our ultimate signature. On the surface, it appears the story ends there. A bizarre footnote, a strange, fever dream of the Cold War. But to leave it there is to miss the profound and haunting echo of this almost event, for this was more than an abandoned plan. It was a threshold, a line in the cosmics, and that we drew, stared at, and ultimately chose not to cross. In that decision, however quiet and bureaucratic, lies a fragile victory for a different kind of human impulse, not the instinct for dominance, but the emerging whisper of reverence. It marks the moment we began, haltingly, to transition from conquerors of nature to its students. We looked into the abyss of our own capabilities and saw a reflection that horrified us, not of a Soviet enemy, but of our own potential for cosmic vandalism. The legacy of Project A119 is not found in its explosions, but in its silence. It is the silence that allowed the Apollo missions, just over a decade later, to be missions of wonder, not of destruction. When Neil Armstrong took that giant leap for mankind, he stepped onto pristine ground, not into the irradiated scar of our own arrogance. His one small step would have been a leap into a nuclear wasteland of our own making. The profound peace of those iconic photographs, the lunar module against the endless black, the footprint. In the dust would have been unthinkable. We chose a different symbol. We chose a flag, not a crater. Yet the ghost of that decision still walks among us. It asks us a question that is more relevant today than ever. What is our relationship to the cosmos? Are we its masters, entitled to reshape it to prove a point? Or are we its guests, humbled by its grandeur, charged with protecting its ancient mysteries? Project A119 is a warning from the past, a fossilized impulse that reminds us that our power always races ahead of our wisdom. The same human mind that could calculate a nuclear explosion on the moon is the one that could marvel at its beauty. The choice of which path to follow is eternally ours. Perhaps the past is not behind us at all. The same tensions that fueled Project A119 fear, nationalism, the desperate need for advantage still simmer in our world. The next frontier, whether it be asteroid mining or Martian colonies, will present us with new versions of that same old choice. Will we export our conflicts to the stars, or will we bring our better angels? So the next time you look up at the full moon, remember the flash that never was. See it not just as a symbol of romance, but as a monument to a catastrophe we avoided. A silent testament to a future we chose not to create. Which truths do you think history has yet to reveal? Share your thoughts. The conversation is part of the discovery until the next story finds us. Keep listening for the footsteps of the past.